Which offensive lines are the best in the NFL today? What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View, here to rank every NFL offensive line from number 32 all the way to number 1, from the worst to the best, entering 2023. I have to say that the offensive lines are easily the hardest thing to rank in the NFL because of the injuries, because you're ranking 5 players in one unit, because of the chemistry and the coaching that matters so greatly to how well this unit performs, even more so than the actual talent that exists. Let me know your opinion on your favorite team's offensive line in the comment section below. Gronk, spike the like button, and let's go and rank some offensive lines. Kicking off my offensive line rankings for 2023, the worst offensive line in all of football entering this season is the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are known for a ground and pound approach with a strong run blocking offensive line. But may I remind you, there is no Taylor Lewan, there is no Jack Conklin, there is no Nate Davis any longer. This is a new, fresh offensive line. Some young faces, Peter Skoronski, some veteran no-names in Daniel Brunskill from the 49ers, who I like for his versatility, and some cast-offs with potential like Andre Dillard. But this line has really struggled over the last couple of years to pass block. If they can get better in that area due to some of these new players, they can definitely climb this list. There's just so much uncertainty with the pass blocking department, with the proven commodities, and whether or not they'll stay the same as a run blocking offensive line. The second worst offensive line in football entering 2023 is the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams house that is protecting their quarterback, Matthew Stafford, was very weak last year. They missed Andrew Whitworth more than any offensive line missed a singular player last season. They could not protect Matthew Stafford's blind side, and in any drop back situation, they are exposed. My hope is they can get back to the running game, get back to that play action game, which therefore, through the scheme of Sean McVay, can protect this offensive line from really being exposed, which is what we saw in previous seasons. Everyone used to rank the Rams so high as an offensive line, but it was really the scheme that made them so complete as an offensive line. We've always known that when they drop back to pass, they can be exposed. Now, they don't have the proven commodities on this line outside of the right tackle position. Noteboom is a huge question mark still. They believe that he's the answer to Andrew Whitworth, but we didn't really see it last year. Steve Avila, a high pick, I believe their top pick this season in the draft, should help them at guard. The interior has been a major problem, especially against power pass rushers. If they can improve in that department, I do believe the Rams can improve as an offensive line. Health was also a huge factor for their failure last year. I do think they're going to get a bit better. I just don't think they have much talent to really be better than this spot. At number 30, the Washington Commanders offensive line. The Commanders offensive line is not all that bad, honestly, but somebody had to come in at number 30, and I chose the Commanders. The reason is I don't see a lot of upside with this unit. It's a bunch of average, proven starters in the NFL that they're just getting by. They're not great. There's no individual that's going to overpower an opposing defensive line. They're not great in run blocking. They're not excellent at pass blocking. They just are what they are. Andrew Wiley, they're hoping, upgrades the right tackle position, but we know that he's not that great. We know that he was paid because he's a Chief, and that's really it. Charles Leno Jr. is pretty good, I guess, as a veteran left tackle, but he's getting old at this point. Sam Cosmi maybe has the potential at right guard that you're searching for on this offensive line. Nick Gates has a great story and a lot of leadership and toughness, but I don't know if this starting 5 really wows me or really will blow me away. I just think they're going to be whatever. Maybe because of that you think they're better than this, but personally I just don't see how they're not just as an offensive line. That's it. At number 29, the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. The Cardinals clearly got better on the offensive line in the draft. Paris Johnson Jr., one of the top tackles, if not the top tackle by most analysts in this draft. But my problem is that Paris Johnson Jr. is projected to start at guard in his first season. And I don't really get that. I just don't get it, okay? Calvin Beachum is older than dirt. He's starting at right tackle. I like DJ Humphries. We'll see what Froholt is outside of the all-star Cleveland offensive line that he played in last year. And Will Hernandez has had one good season. Last year was his one good season. Otherwise, he's lacked the consistency for me. The Cardinals O-line, I do think will be better than last year. I think they'll be coached up better. I do think that Paris Johnson Jr. is very talented, and I like DJ Humphries, but I just don't know, man. I don't see this offensive line being very good. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. I think there's going to be a lot of easy situations for defenses to attack them because they're such a bad team overall that I just don't see how this offensive line looks good in any real scenario in 2023. At number 28, the Buffalo Bills offensive line. I know the Bills this low on any list sounds wild, but think about it. Why is Josh Allen always running away from pressure? Why can they never run the football? Maybe because the offensive line isn't that good? I don't know. Like, think about it. Who other than Deion Dawkins is good on this offensive line? Maybe Mitch Morse? Maybe? But he even graded as the 24th best center in football according to PFF. Spencer Brown, the right tackle, is bad. Like, straight up bad. And the guard position is just okay. I think the best aspect of this Bills offensive line over the years is the depth. They choose depth over talent, over high-end talent on the O-line. But I don't know if it's been working because Josh Allen just doesn't have enough time to operate against good pass rushes and good defenses. At number 27, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. You want to know why the Bucs ranked number 1 in sack percentage last year? It wasn't because of the offensive line. Sometimes the quarterback is more responsible for his protection than the players in front of him. And that was classic case number 1. Because if you watch the Bucs play, they could not block. They could not block. Now, Donovan Smith, who was horrible, is gone. But Luke Gedeke, who played guard and was maybe the worst guard in the NFL last year, is now playing right tackle, and I'm scared for Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. Their run game was a complete dumpster fire. Hopefully the coaching fixes some of that. Ryan Jensen returning should also help. Matt Filer is a replaceable guard, but he's not Shaq Mason. I do like Cody Mock as a rookie pickup, and I do think Tristan Wirfs is an absolute stud. But this offensive line needs to improve greatly from last year to have me inspired about 2023. At number 26, the Seattle Seahawks offensive line. Now, I really like what the Seahawks have built on the offensive line. A lot of young, promising linemen who could take major leaps into 2023. But let's not allow the projection or the potential outweigh the production from 2022, where they were still not a very good offensive line. Let's just be honest. They're pretty good in the run game, but from a pass blocking standpoint, still not what you would like. Now, Charles Cross, young, should improve, should make a jump in year 2. Same as Lucas at right tackle, who is a very bright pickup from the draft last year. And I think the Evan Brown signing was really good, on top of having Damian Lewis, who's one of the league's best guards. Seattle has a young offensive line that's growing together as a unit, and that is their biggest thing that they can really count on. The chemistry growing, young players improving. If that happens, this O-line could be a top half of the league unit, but we just have to see it before I rank it there. At number 25, the New York G-Men offensive line. The Giants' offensive line is very similar to Seattle's. Young, especially at tackle. They have a rookie center. They have a lot of investment on the offensive line. Mark Glowinski, who they signed a year ago. But we haven't necessarily seen their ascension yet. Maybe it could be this year. Evan Neal was really bad last year as a rookie at right tackle. I really loved Evan Neal coming out of the draft. He disappointed me on all levels. But I do believe in year 2, he could get a lot better. Andrew Thomas is already a legit premier left tackle, a franchise left tackle. And I do think that they might have added the best center in the draft this year. So overall, the Giants, again, a young offensive line growing together that has a lot of potential, especially if Evan Neal can get it together. But this is simply a projection. I cannot completely say that they're a top half offensive line, but they could be, which has me extremely intrigued. At number 24, the Jacksonville Jags offensive line. The Jags offensive line was actually quite good at pass blocking in 2022, not allowing a lot of sacks, not allowing a lot of hits on Trevor Lawrence and keeping him protected and secure. But Cam Robinson is suspended for the first 6 weeks, which means that a rookie first-round pick will be playing left tackle. And Walker Little, a guy that didn't see a lot of time as a rookie, will be playing right tackle. Jawan Taylor is gone, so there's some questions about this offensive line. Brandon Scherf should keep it together with his leadership and experience in the middle, but Jacksonville's O-line has more questions than a year ago, but they have more potential in the run game once they get all of their 5 guys back because Jawan Taylor was so bad in that aspect. They could improve later in the year, but expect them to struggle early in the season. At number 23, the Miami Dolphins offensive line. The Dolphins offensive line is really tricky to rank because at times they can be really good. When Teron Armstead is on the field, they're a pretty good unit, but he misses a lot of games. And with Teron Armstead, they have 3 good players. Robert Hunt is a good player. Connor Williams actually had his best year of his career playing center for the first time with Miami. And they're actually surprisingly a good run blocking unit. But Austin Jackson comes back and is still starting and he's pretty bad. And they definitely have issues at left guard. So they're a hit and miss offensive line that's very inconsistent depending on their health. Overall, I think they're fine, but nothing good or even above average. At number 22, the New York Jets offensive line. The Jets offensive line really does have some potential. If they can stay healthy, they have proven commodities and guys with a ton of upside. Mekhi Becton is a superstar if he can just stay on the field. Elijah Vera Tucker is a versatile superstar. But this line, Dwayne Brown, I don't know if he's going to last the year. I like the depth, Billy Turner. I like what they did with the draft. But man, they just can't seem to stay together in any season. If they can, it will be the X factor of this team and really outdo anyone's expectations for their line play. But if they don't, they could cost the entire season for Aaron Rodgers and this team. Lincoln Tomlinson's good. Connor McGovern is good. Elijah Vera Tucker is good. Their individual pieces are there. They've got to stay on the field. At number 21, the Houston Texans offensive line. The Houston Texans offensive line is one that I see a lot of people ranking lower than this based on past stats and production. But honestly, I think the Texans offensive line has a ton of potential. 2 good tackles, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard. A really good combo. Pass protect, run block, all of it. Shaq Mason is a proven monster in the run game. And Kenyon Green is a former first-round pick last year who could really ascend in year 2, and they just added a young center with high priority, I believe in the 2nd round. So the Texans have all the pieces, all the talent, and all the money invested on this offensive line to really work to be a good unit in 2023 protecting CJ Stroud. At number 20, the New Orleans Saints offensive line. The Saints offensive line isn't what it used to be. Back when Drew Brees was playing quarterback, this O-line was arguably the best in all of football, with Armstead and Ramczyk at their peak. But now it's really Ryan Ramczyk and not a lot else. Like, the rest of the O-line is just okay. It's like one superstar all-pro caliber player, and the rest, they're like serviceable but upgradable pieces. I think McCoy is pretty good at center. We'll see what Trevor Penning can be, but the Saints always seem to play well with cohesion, with chemistry on the offensive line. Typically a better pass blocking unit than a run blocking unit. I have them at number 20 entering this season. At number 19, the Indianapolis Colts offensive line. After a disastrous, and I'm talking disastrous, 2022 protecting Matt Ryan and company at quarterback, I expect a bit of a bounce back. I actually look at the individual pieces and say, you know, this is a better offensive line than they performed last year. I do wonder if some of it was coaching, some of it was the messaging, or even just the fact that the quarterback position was such a disaster that really hurt this offensive line. Quentin Nelson should play better than he played last year. Braden Smith is a good football player. Ryan Kelly, when he's on the field, is a good football player. And I do think they may have found one at left tackle with Raymond from last draft. So the five pieces, the starters, certainly look the part on paper, but can they play the part in 2023? At number 18, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. The Vikings offensive line is a really tricky one because statistically speaking, they were pretty bad in pressures, quarterback hits. But then when you watch them play, it doesn't feel like they're a bad unit at all. And you even look at the grading and you see two elite tackles, a pretty good upgraded season from their center, Garrett Bradbury, and a really good guard in Cleveland. So that should add up to 4 out of 5 really good pieces. Ingram as a rookie last year was putrid. I think he allowed the most sacks of any guard in football. But when you have O'Neal and Darisaw, who broke out last year at tackle, you've got a very good foundation. They're an excellent run blocking line, which should really help Alexander Mattison post Dalvin Cook. I think it's a weird line, but I think it's a pretty good one overall. At number 17, the Los Angeles Chargers offensive line. The Chargers offensive line is a little bit of a projection because they were very injured last year. Specifically, their best player was injured, Rashawn Slater. When you get back a possibly elite left tackle, it changes an offensive line with how you can slide your protections towards the right side and the different assignments that you may be able to achieve with great individual talent. They also have a great center in Corey Linsley, who's still really, really good, and an up-and-coming guard in Zion Johnson from last year's first round. And they don't even really have the issues at right tackle that they used to have. At least it's not a big disaster like it used to be. I even think that they found some nice little gems in past drafts. So I think the Chargers are a better offensive line than they're given credit for or played in 2022. At number 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Easily one of the most improved offensive lines of this offseason, adding a first-round pick at tackle from Georgia, the big man, Jones, who should punish people in the run game. And that's the biggest thing I look at of what the Steelers were able to do this offseason. Bringing in Jones, bringing in Semalu from the Philadelphia Eagles. Those two guys are great as run blockers. Semalu, along with James Daniels as a combination, is a really, really quality guard combo. Mason Cole actually had his best year of his career last year. And even statistically speaking from last season, without some of these elite pieces, the Steelers were actually fairly average. So I expect a pretty good jump from the Steelers offensive line in 2023. Expect them to be one of the more improved units in the league this season. At number 15, the New England Patriots offensive line. This is the lowest I've ranked the Patriots offensive line, I believe, in quite some time. And I think it's because we have some questions with the line that we typically don't have. Like, who's playing right tackle and will they be any good? Will Trent Brown be Trent Brown, or will he be out of shape, sloppy Raider Trent Brown? And will Cole Strange actually show up and be consistent? Because Cole Strange was funky. As a first-round pick, he had many games where he was excellent, and then in other games where he was absolutely putrid, where he had to be benched and replaced. David Andrews is a professional, very good center, and Michael Onwenu is an excellent guard. But the other pieces have questions. The depth is there at tackle, and they drafted a ton of players on the interior, but can they find a starting five that's better? I definitely think the coaching will improve, which is why I think the unit will improve overall, but I do have more questions than I usually do. At number 14, the Chicago Bears offensive line. Now this will be highly debated in the comment section because I don't think people think the Bears offensive line is that good, mostly because of the sacks. But I think if you look at the stats, it would showcase why I'm not a big Justin Fields fan. The offensive line is really good, especially in the run game. They're excellent. But Justin Fields holds on the ball too long, which makes them look bad in the pass game. Now, they've greatly improved some of their aspects. They signed one of my favorite guards in the league in Nate Davis, who's an excellent fit for their system. And I do believe Darnell Wright will be a very good player right away in the NFL at right tackle, which fixes a major issue and hole on the right side. I also think Braxton Jones is an underrated young player. Tevin Jenkins played excellent last year, and Cody Whitehair is a very good pro at center or guard. So the Bears have a really good starting five if they can fit and chemistry and combine. At number 13, the San Francisco 49ers offensive line. The 49ers offensive line in 2022 was one of the best of Kyle Shanahan's tenure, to be honest. They did lose Mike McGlinchey, but some in the 49er fandom prefer to call him McFloppy. Shout out to the OG Lenny B. But 49ers O-line is mostly about their scheme and having Trent Williams. When you have Trent Williams, it helps you do a lot of things in pass protection and help out a lot of people. It also is protected by Kyle Shanahan's genius. Now, I will say that their starting five typically plays better as a unit than as an individual. There's a lot of young pieces that will continue to grow, like Banks, for example. I think the 49ers are a very solid line and typically are always about average, maybe a little bit better under Kyle Shanahan. Expect the same in 2023. At number 12, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders' offensive line is one of the most underrated, in my opinion, in all of football after allowing Josh Jacobs to run for the most yards in football. They still do not get enough respect. They are an excellent run-blocking offensive line, leading the NFL in adjusted line yards last season. That means they allow the most room for their runners. Also, they're a pretty underrated pass blocking unit, especially the tackles. Colton Miller is awesome. Jermaine Illuminor is a very good veteran, and they're a young, improving interior overall. I really like what McDaniels has been able to do to help this offensive line, and I think their cohesion will only grow into 2023. At number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. The Bengals offensive line added a massive human being at left tackle. His name is Orlando Brown Jr. Last year, the Bengals offensive line was playing really well near the end of the year, and then they just all got injured at one moment's notice. But they still survived and were able to win playoff games and get to the AFC Championship, even with the depth. So a lot of these players, including the second unit, have played a lot of snaps in big games, which I very much like. Orlando Brown will help secure the blind side for Joe Burrow and allow him some extra time to throw the football. They have a very competitive right tackle camp battle right now with Jonah Williams. Collins is still there. Carmen is still there. Karras is good. Kappa is good. This is a really good offensive line if they can fit the pieces together and stay healthy in front of Joe Burrow. Entering the top 10 offensive lines in football today. At number 10, the Denver Broncos, who spent a ton of cash on making sure Russell Wilson is protected moving forward. Sean Payton brought in Ben Powers from the Ravens, Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers to secure two of their biggest weaknesses from the past. Left tackle Garrett Bowles will also return from injury. He is a very good football player. And overall, they just do not have a weakness any longer. Maybe the center position. Mike McGlinchey's a really good run blocking right tackle. Ben Powers a really good pass blocking left guard. I think that this line under Sean Payton's scheme will be one of the better ones in football. It's already well coached. They sustained solid play with some big injuries to the line last year. I expect the Broncos to really improve on the offensive line in 2023. At number 9, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. Cowboys offensive line is always very solid. It has been for a number of years, really dating back to Dak Prescott's rookie season. It's been one of the top 10 offensive lines every year from that point on. Tyron Smith's a big reason why. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player. Zach Martin, a Hall of Fame caliber player. Now they're getting a little bit older. Tyron Smith may be showing his age a little bit more than Zach Martin, who's still the elite of the elite. But the rest of the line is pretty solid as well. Pretty good at right tackle. We thought maybe they'd miss something with Collins leaving, but Steele stepped up and played well. Tyler Smith as a rookie showed his versatility, and he'll probably move inside to play guard this season, and if Tyron Smith ever goes down at any point, he could step in at left tackle. This Cowboys offensive line is always well coached, and they're very good in both the pass and the run game, one of the most balanced O-lines in the league. At number 8, the Carolina Panthers offensive line that will be protecting the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young, in 2023. The Panthers offensive line was excellent at not allowing pressure or hits on the quarterback last year, and they opened up huge holes for Foreman, especially down the stretch running the football. This O-line is really, really solid, and they have more potential because Ekwonu could always get better as a sophomore tackle in 2023. Very big improvement in 2022. Thanks to Bradley Bozeman at center, thanks to Austin Corbett at right guard. Taylor Moton, or Moton, is still one of the best right tackles in all of football. They just very solid across the board. No real weakness, maybe left guard, but the tackles are good, and they're good in both the pass and the run game, for sure. At number 7, the Green Bay Packers offensive line. The Green Bay Packers offensive line is just always really good. And with Matt LaFleur scheming up the run game, they're one of the best teams at run blocking, moving, and executing that West Coast play action, stretch type of offense, that Shanahan-esque offense. And they have great depth on the offensive line. When David Bakhtiari isn't there, which a lot of the times he isn't, they step up, they play well. It's the next man up. And they never really seem to miss a beat on this offensive line. Year after year, they draft them, they plug them in, and they continue to perform, especially in the run game, but also in the pass game. I think this offensive line is always consistently counted on as one of the best in football. At number 6, the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. I think if you were looking at the Chiefs offensive line from a year ago and how they played, they'd be in my top 3. But because Donovan Smith is now the left tackle, who I brought up earlier is not my favorite based on his play from Tampa Bay, if anyone can make him better, it is Andy Reid. I will say that. And the right tackle, Jawan Taylor, yeah, he's kind of replacing the dollars and cents of Orlando Brown, to be honest with you, who played left tackle. I could see it working. Jawan Taylor's a good pass blocker, but a very raw run blocker, one of the worst in football last year. But man, the interior trio is excellent. It's arguably the best in football. It might be the best. Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney are excellent football players. They seem to protect Mahomes no matter what, and they always play well in big games. The Chiefs are a really well schemed offensive line. Entering the top 5 offensive lines in football today, at number 5, the Detroit Lions offensive line. I think the Lions offensive line is one that even a casual fan can see is really good and really talented. The way they control the game in the running game, the way they protect Jared Goff in the play action and pass game. This offensive line is the core and the heart of that offense. Everything they do is because of how dominant the offensive line is. They have one of the best tackle duos in football, along with one of the best centers in football. Vaitai is back at guard, and even Jackson graded as a top 30 player at his position as well. All 5 are top 30 starters in this league at tackle, center, or guard. That speaks volumes to the power of the Lions offensive line. At number 4, the Cleveland Browns offensive line. The Cleveland Browns offensive line, I would argue, has been the most consistent run-blocking O-line in football, and it's because of their 2 guards. Their 2 guards are legit powerhouse run blockers. Wyatt Teller is an excellent football player. He graded in the top 16 in football this past year. Joel Bitonio was the 2nd best guard in football, and then you add in an elite performance from veteran Ethan Pocic last year at center, who graded as the 3rd best center in football, and you have a powerhouse run-blocking O-line. 2 tackles that are athletic and can move, Jack Conklin being the better of the 2. This O-line doesn't really struggle in either regard, but they are a run-first offense that is powered by the offensive line to set up everything else that the offense does. The 3rd best offensive line in the NFL entering 2023 is the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. Arguably the most balanced O-line in all of football, grading as PFF's number 2 pass blocking unit and number 2 run blocking unit in 2022. When Ronnie Stanley is on the field, this line cannot be stopped in any regard. He's just got to stay healthy. Morgan Moses proved to be a great addition at right tackle, grading as a top 20 tackle once again in the NFL. Tyler Linderbaum is already an awesome center, and we know what Kevin Zeitler can do. Yes, a couple of these pieces are a bit older and fragile, but when they're on the field, they can really play. Now Lamar has actual receivers, so he doesn't have to hold on the ball as long. Look out for this O-line that will dominate you on the ground or through the air. The 2nd best offensive line in the NFL today is the Atlanta Falcons offensive line. Yes, I said it. You heard it. The Atlanta Falcons. Get it through your skull, because you better recognize before it takes place this year. The Atlanta Falcons have arguably the best run blocking line already based on last year's performance. They added a high draft pick in Bergeron, the Canadian, this draft. They also signed up maybe the best guard in football, Chris Lindstrom, who was PFF's number 1 graded player last year at the position. Caleb McGarry had a breakout year, grading 4th at tackle. Jake Matthews is a very solid pro, grading 16th. This is just a really good O-line with solid depth that powers you into the dirt, and I think will open up the pass game in 2023. The best offensive line in the NFL today is without a doubt the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. The Eagles offensive line passed the statistical test, the grading test, and the eye test. The Eagles offensive line has a dominant tackle duo. They have a Hall of Fame center, a Hall of Fame right tackle, and very good young up-and-coming guards. They also have excellent depth. The Eagles really have everything you look for in an offensive line. They're athletic to move in space, to play in the screen and the run game. They're really good in the pass game. They don't get overpowered with strength. They just have everything. From Lane Johnson to Jason Kelce to Mailata, this O-line is fantastic, and it's the best in the NFL entering 2023. Thank you guys so much for watching my offensive line team rankings. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button and subscribe for more NFL rankings just like this. It's Mitch. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.